Welcome to the Transcontinental Times channel on the Smart Entrepreneurship Decoded. Entrepreneurship is always, if not always, at least often, correlated with a lot of passion, energy, the ability to sell, the ability to problem solve, the ability to think out of the box, ability to have a growth mindset. We have met different kinds of entrepreneurs on this show. Not necessarily people who have only set up a company and gone about it the hard way, but even people in corporate life who have grown their companies multifold with an entrepreneurial mindset rather than trying to do everything themselves. Today we have a special guest. He is from Ukraine, spent a lot of his professional life in USA, has worked there, has studied there, has worked in an investment firm doing mergers, acquisitions, buyouts, funding, and went back to his home country of Ukraine to try to do something there. He's the CEO of the World Trade Center and a close friend. I have never met him in person, but the number of conversations I have had with him over the last 2 or 3 years, I feel as if I have known him for a long time. If you ever think of entrepreneurship as somebody having deep passion, somebody who can sell you anything, somebody who's absolutely obsessed with their idea, you will be delighted to meet him. You will see all these traits in him. He's Henry Shterenberg from Ukraine, and it's a pleasure and honor to welcome him to the show today. Welcome, Henry.
Well, what an introduction, Nalin. Thank you so much for that. That means a lot. Thank you.
So, Henry, you've experienced life on both sides, right?
I have.
You've experienced life as a corporate guy. You've experienced life as a person who's doing mergers, acquisitions, funding. Now you're also experiencing life on the other side where you're trying to raise funds for ventures of your own. Yours is not a typical startup because your scale is so high, your vision is so large, etc. How does it feel to be on the other side versus?
Well, one thing is obviously clear. I have been on this side before, back in America when I was raising money for my businesses there, which became very successful. But I have never raised money in Ukraine at all, ever. And I even to this day, we're actually just about to start raising money. Up to this point, as you know, I'm a big believer in bootstrapping the business until you're ready to raise money. A lot of people, in my opinion, trying to raise money way too early. Being scrappy early on gives you that will to fight and basically forces you to be adaptive because you have no resources to find a way in. So it feels... as always, somewhat scary, although I'm very confident with people we have that we're going to find a way to get it done because the idea is so big, the interest is so high now. And it's all, but at the end of the day, as they say, until the money's in the bank account, you're not done your job. All the great stories, all the conversation, it's all just talk until the money hits the account.
So I have been on both sides as well, right? Raising money for people as well as raising money for my own companies.
Yes.
Do you at times find it, especially for people who are already accomplished like yourself, do you find it a bit insulting and humiliating sometimes, the way the whole process?
Absolutely, every time. The key is, especially when you are doing this after being very successful, because the project as you know, the project we're doing now is so massively big, with the past potential impact of it. It has, it's very exciting. Also, it's extremely humiliating. Humiliating in what sense is because you have to get down and understand that somebody sitting across from you is now in some way holds a little bit of your future destiny if he decides to say yes or no, or he's going to drag you along, or he's going to play games and figure out how to squeeze you one way or the other. So I've been through all the games. I know all the notes that will be played, but yet every time you play this piano, you play this concerto, you still constantly learning because sometimes investors will surprise you. And those investors, in my experience, the ones you really got to pay attention to, because if they ask you a question that you have not heard before, and in my case, it would be after thousands of different conversations over the years, I am very surprised that somebody would have such a deep insight to surprise me that I haven't thought about something. So I would pay to those people attention more.
You made an interesting point when you said people go for money prematurely or there's a timing issue to it. So, in
Yes.
your view, when you are wearing the other hat,
Yes.
what is the good time to go to an investor? I mean,
When
what
you
would be
when
the
you
best?
launch the product, remember when you're raising funds for anything, doesn't matter what you're raising funds for. You're selling the future. You're selling the idea to investor, and you. I basically, if investor first, what people are missing, in my view, when they pitch, first and foremost, the investor has to buy into you as a person, you as entrepreneur who can execute the big idea. People, I think, misunderstanding that people don't invest in ideas. People, in my experience, the good ones, invest in people who can bring the big ideas to life. So that's the major difference. So on that's one side. On the second side, the best time to sell that future and to get the best valuation for the buck, especially early stages, is when you're launching the product, not at the concept stage where you're just formulating the idea, but when you actually go into the market and you're about to start getting clients. So it's getting the traction. And if you keep talking to investors 6 months before that moment, and months after that, they will see the traction, hopefully, as you get to the market. And then they start asking themselves a question: what if I'm going to be late? Because they have no idea what that J curve will hit, right? So that's that. You have to be able to start pulling that saliva out of investors of getting excited about what you do by executing it, and that's the best time to raise money, in my opinion.
Yeah. So, a couple of things that you said there resonated with me. One, you stay engaged with investors as they watch you. And when you
Correct.
start taking off,
A lot
they
of
kind of
entrepreneurs don't do that.
come into play. Now, the other thing you said is, which is very important, people invest in people. So you
Correct.
need to have a certain credibility to be able to even open the door. Now,
Right.
for people like yourself who are already accomplished and have a track record, it's I wouldn't say it's much easier, but it's slightly easier because you know people, you have a network, etc. But what about young people fresh out of college, great idea, etc.? How do they, project that credibility?
Well, I want to point out a couple things here. Number one, network is critical. Doesn't matter where you are in your life. It doesn't matter what you do in your life, in my opinion. My kids, I teach my kids that number one priority when you're in college is not the grades that you're getting, is getting the people to know who are above you, next to you, the network, build the network during your college years. Second thing, I think, Nalin, is very important that uh, when we are trying to raise money in Ukraine now, I have no credibility whatsoever. Meaning, I don't have a track record here in Ukraine because this is my first operational business. And yes, I have developed a very large network within Ukraine, but it was purposely done as I was working year after year to build the network and to build the credibility and to build the trust with the people who actually invested in me.
I think Henry's had a bit of a network issue. Let's wait till we get him back on. So you saw him make some very important points, right? People invest in people. So your credibility as an entrepreneur is
Sorry about
absolutely
that. I'm back.
paramount. And
I'm back. Sorry about that. So
go ahead.
as I was mentioning it, I purposely had built network for years in Ukraine because I knew I knew. But very interesting when I had this idea back in 2014. Remember, Nelly, for me it's been a 7-year journey. It's not a very standard. It's not a very standard startup. So I started with a very low rank network of people who definitely would not get me where I needed to go. But one by one introduction after another, I was climbing up that ladder, which is very closed in Ukraine, and learning myself. I realized when I moved back 3 years ago back to Ukraine of how much guy who speaks the language, guy who knows a lot of people in Ukraine, guys who's been doing business in Ukraine, not operational but investment for years. I realized how much I do not know nuances of day-to-day business in Ukraine, and that was shocking to me. I realized that I have a lot of learning to do.
Interesting. But not a lot of our viewers know about Ukraine. Now, they'd hear about these startup ecosystems that are in Eastern Europe and very successful. Small countries, very successful. Latvia,
Yes.
Belarus, Estonia. Uh, what is happening there? Why are they so successful in nurturing startups? And what is Ukraine doing right now?
Oh, well, again, a couple quick things on the history front. Ukraine historically been one of the most innovative countries in the world. It gave everybody a helicopter, for example. There's a lot of space innovation. But for example, the WhatsApp founder is from Odessa, from Ukraine. PayPal founder Max Levchin is from Ukraine. Grammarly 2 years ago was sold for $100 million to Google, I believe. And so Ukraine always has been very, very innovative country across many industries, and that remains here as a culture. It is obviously, I believe, third largest IT outsourced country in the world, and that is also provides tremendous growth. Ukraine now is one of the leaders in blockchain AI developments, as well as AR and VR, which is the future augmented virtual reality, obviously. So then Ukraine is now really stepping into the toes of space development. You see tremendous, because Ukraine has a lot of titanium, and it is one of the very small number of countries that have full ability to, from design to space rockets, to do the whole vertical. So it's unique in many, many different ways. Yes, the problem, as you point out, is that
Okay, I think we seem to be having some off and on issues getting with Henry, but he's making some very important points, especially if you're a young entrepreneur. He was speaking earlier about the credibility that you require, and if you don't have it because of a track record, etc., there are various other ways to build it. In my view, just like Henry said, people invest in people. And if you want, when they invest in people, they're basically looking for credibility. How do you build credibility, especially if you're fresh out of college, if you don't have a track record, you're not an accomplished professional like Henry is? How do you do that? I believe it goes back to knowledge. I have spoken to so many investors, and they keep talking about the value of having knowledge. Credibility is built on knowledge, then it comes on various other factors. But when investors meet you for a few seconds or in your elevator pitch, the first thing they try to assess is, can I trust this guy with my money? And that's what Henry was speaking about credibility. But let's get back to him about Ukraine and the ecosystem around Eastern Europe. Is that
right.
because of the strong engineering background, or is the
Well,
government
first of
more
all,
helpful, or
yes,
what is it?
Ukraine has historic, Nalin, as you and I talked numerous times. During Soviet times, one of the things that Stalin, if anybody reads history, did brilliantly, he tied up the republics as a supply chain. Ukraine was the headquarters, brain power headquarters, basically brain headquarters of this whole Soviet Union. So it has a legacy of tremendous academic research. And Soviets were brilliant and way ahead of its time in many technologies. They just never developed technologies for the markets. So they have the estimate of $1 trillion of IP now that is worth over $1 trillion in Ukraine. So just tremendous history of science innovation through Soviet times, even before that. Then, after the break of Soviet Union, there was a lot of activity of oligarchs that became very powerful and basically took over the economy, and that basically started degrading the potential of Ukraine. Why? Because they monopolized many industries, especially on a resource basis. But the great thing about the technology, it's here, right? It's so much new now coming in, and the coal mines are no longer as valid as they used to be, right? So all the big factories that have been there Soviet times and served so well are so outdated, so bad. It's just they're inefficient. So Ukraine has enormous opportunity, and use this as an example as a pitch line, and I will give you a bunch of them today. I hope. So think about the fact that in Africa, never that there were really big cable phone lines, right? Africa as a continent went through mobile telephoning right away. So in Ukraine, imagine this on infrastructure level. You have 71 airports, you have a gazillion of roads, railroads, air, just seaport, riverport, all of it is there. But it's so basic. The hardest part of being airport business is to become an airport. And we have 71 of them. It's all about logistics around them now. So we can, due to technology, due to advance, like for example, I'm getting in and out of the connection. We're now talking about bringing 5G, skipping the 4G in Ukraine, jumping right to 5G, and that will open up. In the city I'm sitting in, we're actually working on the project of bringing movie industry onto as of sea. So that's the massive project we can do now because of technology and transform the country in a very quick time. But in order to transform the country, you have to transform the mind first and give people the opportunity to unite. And that's what we making this as a first step.
Yeah. So I know you are very attached to technology, especially blockchain, AI, etc.
Sure.
You are quite experienced and accomplished in that area. Now that you're back in Ukraine, you're trying something which, to my mind, is quite life altering, business altering, behavior altering, and something that is at a monumental scale. You're
Yes.
trying to build a digital platform, which you call the economy of trust, and we'll hear
Yes.
from you in a moment, where entrepreneurs, small business owners, and various other stakeholders can come in, interact, exchange ideas, do business, get educated, and so many other things. Why
Correct.
have what is this economy of trust, and why did you call it economy of trust? It's such an odd name. I mean, what's the reason?
It is an odd name, but it does resonate very quickly, does it? Doesn't matter who hears it. Yes, I think those three words are the most brilliant three words I've ever pronounced, in my life. But I think there's a little bit of a backstory. The backstory is when 2013, I was very successful in America, and I basically was bored, to be honest, and I decided that I wanted to represent Ukraine on international level. Now, notice I had no clue how to do that. I just had this mild, just I wanted to represent in Ukraine on international level. I knew it was a gift. I had no idea how to do it. My simple idea is to create a basically investment banking firm, buy window in and out of Ukraine. So I knew there's a potential, there's a lot of hidden assets, and then I started getting into it, and I realized very early on that the systematic risk of the country was so large that nobody would invest in any one particular great deals, how the deals themselves go, but because of systematic risk, that's a very risk you cannot control. So I was getting deeper and deeper to it. I realized the Ukrainian economy is a sinking Titanic. It cannot be saved. So why? I remember I'm the business guy. I'm a sales guy, right? I'm a business development guy. My job is to and I've been conversating with inside the country, outside the country, global at very high level, as you know. And I hear all the time, it's the corruption, it's the war, I'm like, war? Israel is at war from day one, and they're doing pretty well, right? I mean, this is not going to stop, right? So corruption, the currency, the fiat currency, the cash is going out of existence by itself. So it's like it's a dying dinosaur period. And if you look at corruption, even if it's 10% in Ukraine, which is a big number, on $150 billion, it's 15 billion. But if you understand the Ukrainian economy should be 3 to 4 trillion, which is more or less common knowledge, you understand it's irrelevant. So where is the issue? And the issue that I identified was the issue that you can summarize in one word. That word was trust. There was no trust into Ukraine from outside, and there's tremendous mistrust on the human level in Ukraine. So that was the number one, boom, lightning ball. How can we fix that? I'll come back to that, the trust issue. How do you fix that? Second issue, the problem, you had the legacy of central planned economy from Soviet times that de facto cannot work in Ukraine as a democracy. So we're trying to push the square peg into a round hole. And the third one is a mentality of dependency. We're waiting for the government to do something for you versus taking the opportunity to do it. So the reason I moved back to Ukraine is because of the law of decentralization that was passed first reading 2016 and only became effective last year. I knew that was a game changer because you can now basically go away from the central planning to a local bottom up economics versus top down economics. You knew that you can open up to change the mentality entrepreneurship faucet, which relates to technology and all that. And how do you solve trust? That's why, as you know, for 2 years I've been chasing the World Trade Center Association license, because to be the president of World Trade Center Association license, give me the statue, right? The access. As you know, we're going to be hosting U.S. congressional delegation, for example, office of the president from Afghanistan. We're looking to develop things with Indonesia and India, all of that. So they gave me the status, and most importantly, World Trade Center Association carries global brand of trust. That was the key missing point in the beginning. And now we're planning World Trade Centers and applied for 11 more already, and we're planning over 100 in Ukraine over the next couple of years.
So is this platform basically for companies in Ukraine, or you plan to take it? Because it sounds like something.
It's global from day one. Economy of trust became a philosophy, and it very surprisingly to me, Nalin, it's becoming a movement of sort. People just really start getting from all over, unlike everything I expected, to be honest. Economy, what we're attempting to do, we are building alternative economic mechanisms. That's the mind-boggling ambition of what started with as me wanting to represent the country, traveling around the world talking about Ukraine, is now turned into, over the years, through iteration, to constant adaptation to the situation and things that on the ground that change. It's political, geopolitical as well. It's a 3D chess of where we're playing now. But at the end of the day, we now have a very strong belief, and we have that we have ability to execute on creating alternative economic mechanism for the country size of Ukraine. We're talking about 40 million people, right? The largest country in Europe, size-wise, does not depend on Ukrainian government, but work with the government. Why? We have access to capital around the world. We have access to strategic partners around the world, and we have access to global channels of distribution around the world. All three is not a want, it is a massive need for all of Ukraine. And because decentralization, every competition to get people, project, financing will be tough. And we are the only game in town. We are almost a monopoly in the sort without ever even doing, we just haven't been public yet. We're just coming out now, as you know.
So, a lot of people like yourself who have a larger vision are trying to solve a larger problem.
Yes.
And I'm sure you've got technology behind it, right? Blockchain, AI, etc., working behind it. When you solve a larger problem and go to investors, etc., do you often hear the answer or suggestions like, why don't you just do a small, simple part and make it successful rather than do this whole thing? Do you hear that?
Every day, literally every day. And the fascinating part about my answer to this, and it's as you know, I used to teach at America Bentley University. I used to be a professor of entrepreneurship. And I would never teach my students to do what I did. And the reason is because I have actually executed this before at a very different business in America, this model. It's a very difficult to execute because we're creating a platform which allows to generate unlimited number of business owners that are consistently integrated from design as an ecosystem, complementing each other, where we are reducing what the owner does by providing legal account, everything for the owner. And the owner is only, because of his expertise or her expertise, owes 20% of the business. We owe 80. So by building these modules, we can add them on as we evolve and complete, again, becoming one-stop shop for the economy on the local level. So give you a good example. I'm sitting in Berdyansk now. It is the only resort on the Azov Sea. We just had a beautiful dinner. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous scene, beautiful city. My vision for it is something between Nice, Cannes, New Orleans, and Las Vegas combined. Now,
Wow.
how do you do this? How do you change the Soviet style city into something very, very cool and exciting? Number one, you have to choose the industrial base. What's the economic base that's going to drive this economy? So we have identified five industries: hospitality, sports and entertainment. The air is very healing here. It's iodinized. It's very good for your lungs. For example, statistic here: COVID was about 3 times less in this city than the rest of Ukraine in terms of infections. Third is logistics. This has port, airport, and railroad and roads. Fourth is pharma and biotech. This region has healing muds, the lagoons with some very special muds that have enormous healing properties. And last one, on the old Soviet manufacturing plants, we're building Hollywood of Ukraine by bringing companies, Bollywood as well, Hollywood, European movie centers under one roof, making a little UN movies industry. But the innovation for us, Nalin, which I believe should be for all developing countries, is our innovation and startup ecosystem is those five industries where the industrial park residents are required to mentor and work with startups in the same five industries. Therefore, you're creating a sustainable innovation cycle for the city and the region around it. That's our vision. And just the mayor just recently, full support. Where can you come? Give me the full green light. They start realizing what they need to do for the big guys to come in. And that's my job. That's the job of our team, is to build this on trust. You can trust that we're going to do the right by you, Mr. Investor.
Interesting. I am completely with you when you say the air is good out there in Ukraine because you seem to get
Yes.
younger over the years. Last
Yes.
week,
Yes.
I see you getting more and more energetic and younger by the year. But
Yeah, yes. I just got here yesterday. So,
I forgot that you actually used to teach entrepreneurship. So tell me
yes.
something. Can you teach somebody to be an entrepreneur? Or is there something basic that is an ingredient that they must have and you can teach them business skills, life skills, soft skills? Can you teach them to think like an entrepreneur?
Uh, can you teach them? It's a mixed answer, Nelly. Number one, nothing can replace the desire you have inside to succeed, irrespective of obstacles. Being an entrepreneur is not for everybody, for sure. It is very volatile at times, different ways, but it's ups and downs. I'll give you a good example. As a leader, yesterday, one of our very old director of communication, right? He's dealing with Parkinson, and he's really started getting bad. And as a leader, you have to make those decisions of humility for the person and helping them out. On the other hand, he's a senior level. You have so many people depending on you, so that's tough decisions to make. It's not for everybody. It's hard. It's hard to go raise money. It's hard to understand when you don't have money how to deal with people that depend on giving family food because you have failed to deliver. Whatever reason is, it doesn't matter to them. They eat to eat. So can you teach it? A lot of things you can, but nothing will replace the experience, the drive. It's just impossible, in my opinion, to teach those things. Yes, you have to have a certain charisma. Yes, in order to attract employees, believers, investors, customers. Yes, you need to overcome many times things that you always, I would never do that. But sometimes you gotta eat your, not a lot of times, you gotta eat your ego, and you have to basically, roll up your sleeves and dig down and figure out the way how to get through. In this journey of mine, Eileen, as you know, I went through tremendous volatility of failure in order to get where I am today. And it's funny thing, as I said to my team, when we got the license, where we got the easy part is over. Now we have to prove everything we planned is actually doable. And that's where we come in now. Literally 2 days ago, to my management team, which we're almost 50 people now, will be over 100 people by end of the month throughout the country. I basically said, there's no excuses anymore. There's no one to blame. Putin, Biden, the local politicians, doesn't matter anymore. It's irrelevant. It's all excuses. Either we perform or we don't perform. with two teams playing cricket or soccer or football, whatever the game is, basketball, nobody cares if I had a fight at home. What only matters at the end is the result. And in our game, the result, either you're earning money, your customers receiving you, or they're not. That's it.
So interestingly, you use the word ego. Uh, so a lot of people like us who restart or enter entrepreneurship later in life, past the age of 40, 45, although you still look a lot younger.
Yes. Going to be 50 in about a month, 2 months.
Yeah, so we start with a bit of an advantage of a track record, some network,
Sure.
etc., etc. But is it also tougher starting later? Does ego come into play? Are there some things you find little difficult to do because of your seniority and because you think you really should not be doing this?
You see what my point is? I generally think that that's a major problem. In my case, it's not because, as you know, I grew up throughout Soviet times, so I'm very easy. I always my policy in my life always I will never ask anyone to do something I'm not willing to do. So and I don't think of myself as beyond. I mean, I'm just the same as you are, and even if the people who are very young, if I see them being obnoxious, then I'm going to take them down very quickly. But if they need real true help, I would have no problem getting down and getting dirty and taking the garbage out. Zero. For majority of people who have succeeded in the past as executive in corporation that has status, money, the bonuses, the benefits, the drivers, that is hard, psychologically hard. And that's but they have to deal with it. Otherwise, the entrepreneurial life will teach them very quickly. I think it will humble you.
Okay, we seem to be having some intermittent problems with network. Let's wait for Henry to come back.
I'm here.
I think you can see his energy and passion really speak out. When he speaks, it jumps out at you. So he made some very important points, not only about credibility of entrepreneurs, but at the age people start. Uh, the fact that you cannot teach entrepreneurship beyond a point. There's a basic desire and intensity that people have to come with. These are all the points that come out from experience. So, Henry, before I let you go, because we are out of time,
Sure.
is there any sport that you play?
I used to. I football, soccer, and obviously today, I think that I made from I'm gonna at some point write a book of how many mistakes I made in my life. But the only mistake I do regret is that when I was 17 in Soviet times, we were in this. I was picked up when I was 8 by the Soviet sports system, and there was a machine. There was a machine that taught me. Looking back at it now, that taught me survival that I'm using till this day, because there was a machine. It did physically survive, mentally survive. Next. So. And I had a chance to be a pro. I played for national team of Ukraine, which was a republic at the time. But when I was 17, and this is a lesson to all entrepreneurs, I was invited for the first time in my life by a girl to a party. And I realized I don't have to train twice a day, 6 times a week, right? I can have fun, and I'm very cool as an individual. And alcohol, cigarettes, girls, and basically my career went down the hill from there. So that was the beginning of the end of my professional or potential professional career. Although I became a very successful coach in America, I built a business around sports and kids. My son is about turned pro. He just got a full ride at St. Louis University and actually fighting with Duke for him. So I'm very proud of. And game gave me a lot. Gaming gave me a lot to this day. To this day, gave me tremendous fun.
So how do you relax now? Because I half thought you'll say golf, and I was thinking you probably
I have no patience.
300 yards with the intensity that you bring to the table.
I have zero patience. I play golf on multiple occasions, but I'm horrible. I have zero patience for golf.
So
Basically,
how do you take care of your mental health?
Very simple. I actually have a very strong routine now that I have developed. Morning routine. I get up a very early riser, so I rise about 4:35 every morning. Around 6 o'clock, I'm working. I walk for about an hour. little walk. I do exercises. I can't run because of old injuries, so I walk, and I do a lot of upper body exercises, get the abdominals. That gets a lot of energy in the morning in the fresh air. So and I always try. In the last 6 months, it was tough to do it at night, but prior to that, I was very disciplined to do it twice a day. And that's my mental break. It allows me to get away. It allows me to really listen to myself. And as I get older, this becomes more and more valuable to me because on a strategic level, I have to think through minor details that can affect the next day or the larger project launch or whatever. I cannot stress enough. As a younger man, I was with my natural intensity. I was going way too fast, way too hard. And today, as a much wiser man, entrepreneur, as you said earlier, I mental breaks and breaking away from the day to day. Woo is a must.
Yeah. Especially at all times, but especially now with the pandemic, it's very
Absolutely.
important to have a certain routine that sets you up for the day.
I'm
And
going to walk on the walk right now after we're done. I'm going to walk on the beach as of sea right now. So
and I often find, I get some of my best ideas when I'm walking.
absolutely.
And
The
sometimes,
one thing I want to stress with you, you asked me how it is. When I was a broker on Wall Street back in '92, you had to get in in the office in Wall Street so 6 a.m. before the market. You got to do research, you got to prepare for them, and then you have to make calls at the time, right? And you would leave at literally 7, 8 p.m. So days were very long. So I started taking naps. I told myself I started taking naps. To this day, I'm taking nap every day. It gives me a boost of energy, and obviously I learned later scientifically it's enormous boost to your mental health taking naps during the day. So now even if I'm busy, I'm traveling, I would sit in the car and I would close my eyes and take a nap for 20, 30 minutes. I just did this before I was talk. I took a nap between the meetings and I'm refreshed and I'm energized again. Very powerful. I recommend to everybody, any age.
fantastic. So that's a good point at which to leave our viewers with that piece of advice: a morning routine, take care of your mental health, and of course, take short naps to re-energize yourself. Henry, it's
Yes.
been an absolute pleasure having you. Your energy is infectious.
Thank you.
Very, very keen to have you here because you bring a completely different perspective. I wish you the very best for your future endeavors, and I know we will be engaged for it in
Yes,
future.
you and I will be engaged for sure. We're coming to Indonesia. We want Indonesia to come to us. This tremendous opportunity. There's not much going on now, and it's up to you and me to make this very different.
Thank you, Henry. All the best. Talk to you
You
again
too.
soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye, guys.
Bye.